I'm not going to do anything like that. Like, I'm good. I'm never going to talk about that. And when I was in counseling, my counseling was online. And when we started talking about it, I didn't say it out my mouth. My counselor, he's a male counselor because I still use him. He's a male counselor. And it didn't even have anything to do with that. But I couldn't say what I had done. I typed in the chat box, I had an abortion. And I only told him of one because I was too ashamed to tell anyone that I had more than one.
Welcome to Book Therapy. I'm your host, Kim Patton. There's no way to count how many books are floating around in this world. Some are decent, some are truly terrible, and some are great. Today we're going to take a deep dive into one great book. Together we will discover gems of truth and encouragement to help you as a foster and adoptive family raise kids from hard places. You're ready, I'm ready, let's get this party started. Hello, and welcome back to Book Therapy. Today we are continuing our conversation with Tonya Bailey-Jones. She is the author of Pearls in the Pews, bringing post-abortion healing to the church. If you haven't listened to our first part of the interview, that is the previous episode. And in that episode, we talk about her story, how she was 17 and faced an unexpected pregnancy, and her career in the military, how she grew her family, and what God was teaching her through the years of really hidden pain and hidden secrets that nobody knew. It all culminated in 2020, and she shares about how God kind of split her world wide open and she had to make a decision. So we're carrying on the conversation, talking today about her journey to acceptance. I encourage you to listen to that first episode because it's there where we talk about, first of all, the abortion wound and then the unmasking. She talks about the masking and then the unmasking. She is an amazing woman and I can't wait to continue. She is an amazing woman and I cannot wait to continue the conversation. On with the show. The transformation that you experienced went from hiding for 33 years and not even knowing what was buried underneath to unmasking, figuring everything out, uncovering the source of your pain, and then accepting the mission and call from God to speak boldly about it to people who had no idea, first of all, your closest friends, and then, starting a ministry to where you're ministering to other abortion wounded women. So talk to me about the journey to acceptance and the way that God broke you in that year where you had to address everything and what he has done since then to use your story as a ministry to other women.
So good. So a few years prior to 2020, probably about 2018, 2019, I went to visit my cousin and we were out with the family and we kind of broke off a little bit and she put her arm around me and she said, "Cousin, I just want to tell you about this retreat I went to." And she started telling me the things that went on at the retreat. And I think I looked at her as if she had two heads. That's how I felt on the inside. Like, I'm not going to do anything like that. Like, I'm good. I'm never going to talk about that. And when I was in counseling, my counseling was online. And when we started talking about it, I didn't say it out my mouth. My counselor, he's a male counselor because I still use him. He's a male counselor. And it didn't even have anything to do with that. But I couldn't say what I had done. I typed in the chat box, I had an abortion. And I only told him of one because I was too ashamed to tell anyone that I had more than one. So I shared with him that my cousin had told me about this retreat and that I was going to reach out to her to start attending the retreat. So in counseling, after I told him that, I did reach out to my cousin and she immediately got me into a retreat. And the person who held the retreat was the first time I had ever heard anyone share their story of multiple abortions. And I was blown away. I was like, you mean I'm not by myself? I'm not the only one? And she's a Christian? And she loves the Lord? And she's smiling? And I want that. I want what she has. So I did attend that Rachel's Vineyard retreat. And when I tell you, God did something amazing. That was the first time that I ever referred to what I carried in those pregnancies as a baby. I had never used the word baby. I had never told anyone the entire story. Like, one person may have known about the one abortion. One person may have known about like the other abortion, but no one knew about all of them. That was the first time I shared that. And my cousin was at that retreat, and she didn't even know that there was multiple abortions. She only knew about the first one. And just the freedom that I walked away from in my forgiveness, right? I was able to say, I know that I'm forgiven in my head, but I also receive it in my heart. And it's a miraculous work that God does when you allow him to take control of your heart and not just your head. So he did a work in me at that retreat. And while he did that, he also dropped in me that I was on a mission. And so I began coaching to discover like what my mission and purpose was. And even in that, he began to peel more layers of my abortion story by allowing me to remember things and to recall things and to begin to heal from those things and to forgive people and to acknowledge that, Tonya, you were 17. And there are some things, one of the things my counselor said was, you cannot use the 50-year-old knowledge as a weapon against the 17-year-old girl. And that's what I was doing. I was so angry at the 17-year-old Tonya for making my life the way it was, because I said, you knew better. But I really didn't. I really didn't know better. I didn't know how to choose better. And so after I forgave 17-year-old Tonya, I also then had to forgive the two 17-year-old girls that called me and made me make that decision. And I had to forgive all of the circumstances that were surrounding it that I didn't even know I held animosity with people or bitterness with people. He had to start cleaning all of that out, right? And that's what helped me to be able to begin sharing my story, because not only did I forgive myself, I forgave other people, whether they asked for it or not, whether they even know that I forgave them or not, whether they even wanted to be forgiven or take any kind of responsibility. I still forgive them for the part that they played in my decision. So when you talk about that table that sat in front of me, my sister was at that table. My sister who knew me better than anyone. My sister who thought, it doesn't matter what this young lady does. She is loved by me unconditionally. She was one of the hardest people to see sitting at that table, because she would hear of the 2 additional abortions, along with my best friend of 40 years. So it was really hard to remove that mask that day, where everyone could see, including the people who were closest to me. But it was an assignment from God, and I knew it. And before I took that stage, I went earlier that day and I walked around that stage and I prayed and I prayed and I prayed. And that's what gave me the strength that day to get up on that stage and tell my story in all of its details and goriness and pain. But I also shared a story of redemption. I shared a story of the love of God. I shared a story of how compassion overwhelmed my heart that I now want to help other people.
You say, I opened my mouth and the words flowed out like I had told the story a million times. Right there from that podium, I shared the depths of my soul. Right there on that stage, I released the shackles that once held me prisoner. Right there, standing before 500 pro-life advocates and my closest family and friends, I shared the truth of taking the life of 3 of my children by the choice of abortion. I gave my babies their public acknowledgement and their identity, Isabella, Lael, and Samuel. Right there, after an hour of sharing my truth, I turned and departed that stage, healed, whole, and walking in freedom. I do want to honor those children. I don't know if I said the names right, Isabella, Lael, and Samuel, but I do want to honor those lives and your life and your
Yes.
vulnerability on that day, because it sounds like that day was a turning point for you. Not just the act of confession, but your healing becoming public. What did that do for you moving forward? How did that empower you, and how did you still struggle to walk in that truth? Because I'm sure it was kind of a new thing to have the truth out in the open. And did that feel disjointed when, strangers started knowing your story and you're like, wait a minute, I thought that was a secret. Oh yeah, it's not a secret anymore.
Yeah. So I do have a podcast, and I had started the podcast before I spoke on that stage. So I started my podcast in June of 2022, and I did that talk in November. So I was sharing bits and pieces of my story. So I was practicing the voice that God gave me on my podcast. But of course, not everybody listens to your podcast, and you're behind a microphone, right? You still have a little bit of cover, we'll say. I'm a little bit concealed behind the microphone. But once you are called to give your testimony in front of people, especially when he sent me to churches, that was a whole different thing. But the enemy would try diligently. Okay. He continued to seek whom he may devour in me. And he would tell me all kinds of things, like what people thought of me, or, your classmates are hearing all of this. People here in town, your aunt, but God in his beauty and his graciousness and his mercy would always send someone to say, you're so brave. I'm so proud of you. Your story really touched me. I'm sorry that you went through that. I'm so glad you're telling your story. It's so needed. I mean, God always, every time I was able to share, he would silence the voice of the enemy with one of his sent ones, and that empowered me to continue sharing, because I always said, God, if only one. If only one. If my story can do something for one person, I know there's going to be a ripple effect from that one person. And he always sends that one person. So it wasn't, and it is not an easy journey, right? But he continues to grow me, and he continues to heal me. He continues to offer things to me to lay at his feet. And when I do that, it does something in me. It just, if people could experience the healing depth of of God's love and compassion and mercy and forgiveness within their hearts, it is truly a miraculous thing that he does inside of you. And you can't put it into words. It is experiential. It's not something that I can accurately describe in words. But once you get a taste of it, it's like, God, here's more. Here's more, because I know you're going to exchange that. I know that I can give this to you and you're going to replace it with love. You're going to replace it with strength. You're going to replace it with authority.
You feel God's unconditional love. He's forgiving your deepest, darkest, hardest, most painful moments and giving you his love. And it's like, it's not fair. It's not even. We're giving him our sin and our brokenness, and he's giving us love and grace and forgiveness.
Yeah.
So a lot of what we do is reach out to foster and adoptive families. And I'm glad that you're on the show, because many families that we minister to and try to help and encourage are touched by unplanned pregnancies and brokenness in families and abortion. So what would you say to a family experiencing an unplanned pregnancy, or not even realizing that the pain from their past is affecting their present? How would you encourage them to experience God in this way, where they bring God their brokenness and receive his love?
One thing I had to understand, and this came through the healing process, and that is the sovereignty of God. That when he places life inside of you, it's not a surprise to him. It is intentional. And once that happens, you do have choices. And unfortunately, society has given the choice of abortion. And it is not what society makes it out to be. Abortion is made out to be a solution, when it is not. It just begets more brokenness, more problems. So I'm taking that option off of the table. And so that leaves two more options. And those options are to parent, or to place your child in the hands of someone that can truly love and care for your child. So both of those options could be really, really hard for the birth mother. For instance, myself at 17, had I not made the choice of abortion, I would have been a single mom at 17, likely not gone off to college, likely in a relationship where neither one of us could afford to take care of our child. So that would have been a life that began struggle anyway, right? But I do believe that God sends resources. God sends people to surround you. But the first thing you have to do is seek him. So I believe that had I, even at 17, had a church to turn to, had a body of believers that would have spoken life and assisted me to get on my feet, then I would have been able to do the very thing that I did, right? Because I did become a single mom at 18, and look where I am now. So just because the circumstances and situation that you currently find yourself in seem daunting, that doesn't mean that's how it's always going to be. And when we're in a situation, we can't see past it. So we think that it's always going to be like this. So I'm here to tell the ones that want to parent and want to stand up on their own 2 feet and do it, that they can. Will it be easy? No, it won't, right? But neither will placing the baby up for adoption. That's a hard decision too, right? But it's a good alternative to abortion. It is a beautiful alternative to abortion because you get to be used as a vessel to bring the life into the world, and someone else gets to kind of take the baton after that and do what God is meant to do in that child's life, because they all have purpose. Every child comes into this world with a purpose, just like I did, just like every other adult, every other teenager, every other child. Therefore, every infant, newborn that comes into this world with purpose already born in them. There's a design course for their life already. So just because I'm not able to bring that design forward, that doesn't mean God isn't going to place someone there to do that. And that can be done through adoptive and foster parents. There's help in each of these situations. There are resources in each of these situations. There are beautiful options in being a parent, even if you have to be single, and being giving a child up for adoption and being an adoptive or fostering parent. There are beautiful things that come from this. So many children whose parents went against abortion and chose life and then chose adoption have beautiful stories in their lives. The stories are out there. But just like post-abortion healing stories are quiet and haven't in the past been heard much, but now we're out there, the same for adoption. Those stories need to be told.
You are so wise, and you are so gentle and kind, and I love that people are hearing your voice, because you have a very powerful voice, you have a very powerful story, and I can see and hear and feel your freedom.
Praise God.
But at the same time, I mean, your story carries a lot of weight and a lot of pain, and I honor your story, and I hope that the listeners and my readers will also just take a moment to be grateful for all that God has done in your life and their lives, because you're a picture of God's unconditional love toward us. No matter what we do, no matter what choices we make, He's there. Like, He did it. He already paid it all. There's nothing more He can do. And just thank you so much for sharing your story. It has been beautiful, beautiful session today. Just hearing from your heart.
You're so welcome. Thank you so much. I appreciate you having me. I appreciate you opening up such a weighty story. But the beauty of it is the story has details of abortion, but the story itself is that of redemption and restoration of Jesus in the lives of the broken.
The coolest thing about hearing people's personal stories and reading memoir, my people know that I love memoir so much. It's that you can truly see the details of what they've been through. And even if you can't relate on every single detail, I mean, none of us can, because we all have very unique lives, but being able to, like Neil Matthews, his podcast, Other People's Shoes, you step into people's shoes for a little while and experience what they have experienced. And I have never had a conversation before like this in my life. And so the fact that we got to do this today, and I will carry this with me forever, because it is a story about God's grace and forgiveness. It's a universal theme. We all need God's grace and forgiveness.
Grace and mercy. Yes. Amen.
Thank you for listening to another episode of Book Therapy. For all the details about the author, the book, and what we talked about today, please see the show notes. As always, if you enjoy this podcast, please leave us an honest review on Spotify or Apple. This helps get the word out. And even better, if you know of a foster adoptive family and you think this episode will encourage them, go ahead and send them a text, because not only will it brighten their day, but it will give them another resource, another tool as they are doing the hard work of loving and serving vulnerable children. Thank you, thank you, thank you. We will see you next time.